Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. I will try to keep my time limit, which is 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm Ingjerd. I've been working in this directorate for 12 years now. The Directorate for Higher Education and Skills in Norway was formerly called Skills Norway or Competencies Norge, which you might have known. Even if you've been in the game for a long time, you might remember Vox, which was a smaller organization which has been merged into a bigger organization. So we are now one of the major directorates under the Ministry of Education and Research in Norway. So I'll talk about how we're working with quality and career guidance, or more specifically with the national framework for career guidance, which we have developed and which we are in charge of and trying to implement. So for some years now, there has been a goal in Norwegian politics to build a comprehensive lifelong guidance system for all. And what do we mean by that? We mean that the system, the services should include, or the system should include both comprehensive attitude towards access and quality and professionality. That should be part of the system, high quality and professionality and access. We wanted, and we have blended services. We have face-to-face physical services, and we have a digital career service. And we are aiming at cross-sectoral and cooperation and coordination on all levels, regionally and on the national level. This directorate has a national systems responsibility for lifelong guidance. That means that we're in charge of the whole system, and we are in charge of making it work coordinated and with high quality and good access, which is quite difficult because we don't have a lot of laws that we can just regulate this with. And but we have what we call soft power, and we have some mandatory, instruments too. But our main role is to advise policy development and develop standards and tools and meeting places and networks, and also to develop and maintain an evidence base of the career field, lifelong guidance in Norway. So in order to have a comprehensive career guidance, lifelong guidance system, we need to have high quality. That's been decided and defined as part of one very important element in the system. So some years ago, we got an assignment from the ministry to develop a national cross-sectoral quality framework for the career services in Norway. And this was a recommendation from a Norwegian official report that an expert group appointed by the government had come forth with. And the main aim with this quality framework was, of course, to strengthen quality and professionalism in the system, but also to make it a tool to bind the whole system together and make sure that there were equal quality and equal standards across the different sectors. When I say cross-sector, I mean the services in the public employment center, the services in schools, the services at career centers for adults, the services at universities, and so on. So across these different silos, in a way, we want one system, equal quality and professionality and good access. So this is a tool for quality development, of course, and for government. This gives us a kind of a standard that we are working towards also as a directorate on the national level. And for the same reasons, we had to develop this together with all stakeholders. So there were practitioners, career counselors involved from different sectors. There were leaders of services. There were owners of services, policymakers, public sector on all levels, and also representation from the masters educations in career guidance in Norway. And we also based the development and the framework on international experience. And one very important thing to notice is that the framework is a standard guidelines. It's not mandatory. It's not put into any law in Norway. So in order to make this something that the career field would start using, we made a website which is called Quality in Career Guidance, Kvalitet I karriereveiledning. And this website contains the 4 different areas of the quality framework, which you can see down here. I will comment on them a little bit more later. Competence standards, career competencies, or CMS that we used to call it, ethics, and quality assurance. So one important thing was that our assignment and the recommendation from the expert group was to make this cross-sectoral. And that's quite uncommon internationally. A lot of countries have quality frameworks, but they are usually reserved to one sector, typically for schools, for education system. And then you can make the framework and the standards a bit more customized towards that sector. But ours is cross-sectoral. And it's meant, as I said, to ensure that the system has equal quality across sectors and that we make it one career field and one profession in a way in Norway. So therefore we had this broad representation, and it has been a challenge both to develop and to implement the quality framework when it's cross-sectorally and not developed to fit each context perfectly. But this tension we've tried to handle within, to some extent within the framework, and I'll give one example. So the first area of the quality framework is qualification standards, Competencies, and this part is made up of a description and a model of working areas and tasks and roles in the field of career guidance. It shows, the different roles. Management, research, education, and training, which is, obviously done in the universities, and policy and systems development, which typically I'm a representative for, working at the national level. And then you have the career guidance practice in the middle. And these competence or qualification standards with the competence areas, you can see to the right there, they are meant for the career guidance practitioners, but they are also relevant for the other roles to look into, and to some extent, for example, a leader of a service also need to have some competence in the qualifications in the different areas here. So we landed, this was a long process, we landed on 7 areas of competence and divided into 2 levels, skilled and specialized. And this area, number 1, has a tool. All of the 4 areas has a digital tool connected to it on the website. And this tool is called Min Kompetanse, My Qualifications. And it's a tool, digital tool, where you log in and you do a self-assessment of all the different areas of competences. And you get an overview of your qualifications. And it's a reflection tool too, to be able to kind of reflect and plan, where do I need to gain more competencies or to higher my qualifications. And it's also meant to be an inspiration for continuous professional development. So that's, and then you can kind of, save your results, to say it in that way, on the website, on your page. And you can do it again later and see how this has changed and developed. The next area is career competencies and career learning. And this is the model that the group landed on. It was a long process too. It's called the career learning in context. And there's a focus on the different contextual conditions that influences career learning. And then it describes 5 areas of exploration and learning, the so-called career buttons that you can see there. And all of them are dilemmas or tensions that you need to go into and be able to handle when you are handling your career. So for instance, it's change and stability, opportunities and limitations, choice and chance, and so on. And behind those buttons, there's a lot of different themes and dilemmas and questions to dig into. And this also has a tool connected to it. It's more of an inspirational tool for career counselors and teachers to get inspiration and ideas on how to do career learning based on the career buttons. So the next area is ethics. It consists of ethical standards for the whole field, again across sectors. And the standards, ethical standards, are divided into 3 areas. It's relation and cooperation, it's competence and reflection. And together with this, the ethics area in the framework consists of 3 other parts. And here we come to this tension of making a cross-cultural framework. If you see this frame to the left here, this is a model which aim is to show how different parts of the context that you are doing career counseling within, career guidance within, can influence the guidance and and even influence your freedom to act in a way that you would think is most ethically correct. So traits with the target group, the way the service is organized, the form it has, acts and procedures, that could be laws, that could be different routines and things that this service has to work again, align with, and also traits or sides with society and environment. Take one example. If you are in Norway, we have a law that says that refugees should get career guidance at a career center. But in the law, it says that they should get 1.5 hours with career guidance. And this is obviously not always enough. And for the career counselor, it can be an ethical problem to see that this person obviously needs more than 1.5 hours, but that's the limit that I am allowed to give. So that shows how a factor in the context actually challenges your ethical standards. Then again, you might not be able to change it as a career counselor, but you might be able to reflect on it and to reflect with others how to handle this in the best way, and also to cooperate with others to kind of communicate this difference between the need and the rule, so to speak. Then this area in the framework consists of a reflection model, which is meant to be an inspiration to develop the ability to cope with ethically challenging situations. So this is when you have had counseling hour with someone and you have experienced something that was ethically challenging, how to deal with this afterwards and how to debrief and to get support and to reflect on it and so on. And then the last part was this declaration, which is meant, it's possible to print it out and put it on the wall for the career counselor, so that also the client can see what you are obliged to do and what ethical standard you are at, or what you want to, how do you want to act ethically. The next and last area is the quality assurance, and this is the model for that. This is a model that obviously states that career guidance services are meant to be to give output both to the individual and to the society, and it discusses kind of what kind of output are we talking about here. But then it shows the 7 different quality domains that are, so to speak, the input to get this output for individuals and the society. So 7 quality domains that are essential when developing career guidance services of high quality. And this area also has its own tool called Our Quality, where you can as a leader or as a career counselor, or maybe better together, the whole team, go through your service and answer and reflect on a lot of questions on the different domains and find out where are we? Where is our quality good enough, high, and where do we have to work to better the quality and to assure the quality? Yes, I am soon finished. Just a few more words. One thing that has been difficult is this, when it comes to implementing this, is that it's not mandatory to follow the quality framework. It's a standard, as I told you. And that means that we, as a directorate, we have to make it worthwhile to use it and to implement the framework by stimulating both practitioners and leaders and owners of career guidance services to be engaged in this and to learn what it's about and to use it. And we're using many different ways of doing this, both traditional and more innovative, but it ends up with the fact that the different stakeholders have to buy into this ambition that we want to develop high quality career guidance services in Norway. So we don't have a law that we can just say you just have to do this. Yes, so it's been received very well, although not all the sectors have started using it a lot. Career guidance practitioners have been very happy with it, also a lot of leaders. The career centers for adults have an ambassador role to bring this out to the other services, but a lot of services have done it on their own too, started implementation. Some have even used it as a basis for making a new strategy for the career center services, especially this area 4 with quality assurance part, which we think is very interesting, that they use it as a basis to develop a new strategy. We have also been assigned by the ministry to develop competency standards for career guidance practitioners in schools based on the framework. That means that we are taking the standards in the quality framework, the competency standards or the qualification standards, and adapting them to the school context without losing the original kind of basis. And the career learning, career competencies part or area of the framework is now the basis of a mandatory training course for refugees, training course in career competency. And the career buttons are kind of the center of this course. And we've also seen that the quality assurance part, the area 4, has been used as an analytic tool to investigate quality in career guidance in schools. To make this even more accessible, because we have heard that it's a lot to learn and to kind of take into your service and your practice. We are making something called the Quality Laboratory, which will offer more resources and films and different things that can help implement the framework in your service. So this will come at the end of 2023, I think, the first version. And what's in it for you in the end? We have, of course, a Norwegian website, and there will be a link here when you get this presentation. We have an English version, which is an overview, but it tells quite a lot. We've not been able to translate the whole website and everything, but parts of it. And the report about the quality framework, the basis for the website, is published in English on Epale. And if you read Norwegian, there are a lot of articles at our website for career guidance practitioners, Veilederforum. And you are free to use it also if you're not a Norwegian. It can be an inspiration to go into this and to see the standards and to reflect on them. And I also think that the process we've had in Norway, it offers experiences that can be useful to other Nordic countries, although the circumstances are different in each country. And we have the opportunity, because we are a directorate and we got this assignment from the ministry, so we have a kind of top-down approach in Norway, but sometimes a bottom-up approach where the career field, the career guidance practitioners start, to make a move towards upwards, can make a process start which comes top down. But be critical to our framework and the way we've done it, and adapt it to your countries. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ingjerd. And it's so great to see how generous you are with your information. So they are accessible even in English, some reports on it, and available on the web. And I think after this, we are looking very much forward to hearing more about the quality laboratory coming next fall. And maybe we can visit again to see how that comes up. So thank you very much, Ingjerd.
Thank you.
But we will continue, and now we will fly towards the Faroe Islands and see how things are developing there, with Maiken beginning and Terji also presenting. The screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I will begin, and Terji will continue. We will have about 10 minutes each. And yeah. Let me see. Do you see this as a slideshow?
We see the whole program right now.
You see the whole program.
If you go to the slideshow, there should be a play from
that's the one
from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Morten. Thank you for the opportunity to both to listen to Ingjerd, and I'm also looking forward to listen to Terji. We work in the same organization, but on different levels. My name is Maiken Skarðenni, or Skarðenni, as it often is pronounced. And I'm a career counsellor at the Organiser, which is a national centre for career guidance and student counselling in the Faroes. We are a part of the Faroes Undervisningsrådet. But since the last parliament election, we are going to change the name. The Ministry for Education and Culture has changed its name to the Ministry for Children and Education, and ours will follow to suit our ministry. What I will be doing today is shedding light on the process leading up to the creation of Organiser, because we are relatively new, and as such we do not have we have not framed or constructed a quality assessment tool to fit our offer. But perhaps in the process of making Organiser, there have been some what you call it. We have taken some measures to ensure quality from the beginning. But let's see how this works out. We'll gladly take questions afterwards, and then we'll explain I'll explain the purpose of the institution and how we work today. Ingjerd mentioned the differences between bottom-up and top-down practices in constructing counselling services. And for many years, there has been counselling services in the schools in the Faroes, but the central counselling service started only in 2019. But leading up to that were two reports mentioning lifelong learning and proposing the idea that we had a lifelong learning center. In 2007, there was a report drafted on with the aim of revising the organization of careers and student counselling. And there are a lot of different stakeholders in creating that report. And their joint recommendations were that we should provide adequate foundation for choosing education and career, and that we would provide professional and coherent counselling on education career choices, regardless of what stage in the life the person seeking counselling is. So the phrase lifelong learning and lifelong counselling were not much in the front, but the concept of lifelong learning and lifelong guidance was ingrained in the report already in 2007. And to aim for smoothness in transitions between educations and from studies to work life. And also we recommended to have, provide an education for counsellors at diploma level. So, next formal thing that happens in this connection is that in 2013, the University of the Faroes offered MA in career, master's degree in career counselling. It took 4 years because it was half-time study, while most of the participants worked full-times on the side. And 30 students were from all educational sectors in the Faroes, both from preschool up to university, as well as from other sectors, including the hospital system. For various reasons, some of the the class was 30 students. For various reasons, some 20 took their exam at diploma level, and approximately half finished at master level. And these people, most of them are working in the field today. I guess most of you know the Faroes, but it's worth taking into mind when you're thinking about it, that we are around 55,000 people in the Faroes, and a class of 30 students for a special area in the master's degree is quite a lot. In 2018, a report on adult education and labor market center was issued by Ministry of Education and Culture. The coordinator in this report was our colleague, Jon Dasker, who's also part of the NVL. And it's a large report, a lot of pages in it, and it's very comprehensive, covers a lot of areas. But on education and career counselling, the recommendations are that guidance and counselling should be accessible for all citizens, regardless of employment status, social status, gender, origin, or residence. Being an island society, it's often a challenge for people to be able to get face-to-face counselling or guidance. So digital guidance is a tool that we use quite a lot, actually. And there was a need for people who were not connected to any educational institutions to have access to guidance and counselling. And we that worked in the guidance area, in the schools or education system, felt that a lot. The praxis from the different school or education systems were varied. Where I came from, where I worked at the time, the headmaster said, the director said that if it's students from the local area, or if they have attended that school, I was allowed to use up to a fourth of my time to helping them move on. And in other schools, counselors were not allowed to use time on anybody else than the students in the school. So it was very much needed for people to be able to access guidance without being connected to a school. The report mentions lifelong learning and lifelong guidance and explains that it is a prerequisite for the growth and development of both people and country. And it emphasizes the necessity of professionalism in the counseling profession. A couple of weeks after the publication of the report, it was discussed in the Parliament. It was quite fulfilling to find out that quite a few of the politicians actually had read the report. So, next big thing that happens in 2019. That's when Nederlangerstolen opens. It had been a long time coming, in that sense that a lot of people had talked about it for quite some years, but in 2019, the political climate as well as the push from bottom up were favorable, and the pilot project started. And after 18 months, a year and a half, it became a permanent offer with the constant funding. In these 3.5 years, it has gone from 3 employees, from 1 counsellor to 3 employees, and now we are an education counsellor, a career counsellor, and a coordinator for validation. This is us. Turit, who's the education counsellor, me, career counsellor, and Jon Dasker, who's Dalskar, who's coordinator for validation. A part of our job is to create networks. Actually, network is a formal foundation under Valdaingarstovan. And from the beginning, we were linked to a formal network with counselors working in educational institutions around the country. We call it the VLN 7. And our objective is to share knowledge and experience and to know what is happening around the country, as well as they are gaining information from us. And we have informal, less formal agreement that the kind of problems that they only face once or two a year is they will send on to us, because it's probably something that we encounter more often than they do. Adding to that, I'll check the time. Adding to that, we have informal networks with agents in the area of counseling, and we are creating an additional network now that I will hopefully talk to you about later. Our mandate from the beginning has been to offer and provide accessible lifelong guidance. We have both face-to-face and digital counseling and guidance, and our policy is that we meet people where they want to meet us to start with. And if the ethics or our counseling professional ethics say that sometimes you can meet on Messenger, but it's not ethical to continue on Messenger, and we'll explain to the person that for both us and their sake, we will continue in a more safe forum. We have created cross-sectoral cooperation, and a part of the mandate is to coordinate guidance in the cross-education system. And I must say that is not, there's no red square for that object, because we have not come far enough in that area. Adding to Valdaingarstovan, there are a few other actors in the field of career guidance. In the municipality of Klaksvík, there is a distance learning center with a master in career guidance working, and as such functions as not only as a distance learning counselor, but also a career counselor for the local area. There's the unemployment center and the immigration office, all of which we are loosely connected to in an informal network. That was my 10 minutes. Thank you very much. This is our website, and you'll feel free to ask questions. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Maiken. And again, you can put questions in the chat. We will take them up after Terji has had his presentation coming in now. Welcome, Terji.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity to have this presentation, and thank you for yeah. I think I'll try to share my screen here. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes?
It looks perfect.
Looks perfect. Okay. Yeah. Okay. My name is Terji, and I'm an advisor from the Ministry of Children and Education from the Faroe Islands. This is actually a newly established ministry. Beforehand, we were called the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Culture, but now this is the new title that we have to use. But today I'm going to talk a little bit about, whoa, I didn't know that's about recent quality developments, goals, the standards and internationalization that we're working on, and also the road ahead. But to touch upon some recent developments. We have I don't know why. Yeah. Okay. You had some developments on recognition of prior learning, which has been partly used for the intake to some programs. This is quite new, I think. And within the university, we had some quality assurance developments. There's established a quality unit and also units for research and development. The quality unit is working on increasing transparency, standardizing degree profiles. They have made estimations of workload for lecturers, and also they have like surveys on student well-being. The unit for research and development is securing that research is being made across the different faculties. And yeah, and we just recently, actually last month, we were handed the final report for our second external review at the university, which we have been very excited for, and which also will play a big part in some of the work that we're doing in making the basic structures that we need in our educational system to be able to build systems like, for example, in Norway, when it comes to career guidance and stuff like that. Yeah. Yes. The government has set some goals. It was both evident in our prior coalition agreement and also this one, that the government wishes to become a signatory to the Bologna Declaration and also implementing the standards following the Bologna process, and in that way becoming part of the higher education, European higher education area. We also want to become part of the Erasmus Plus program and are currently working towards it with the EU. But there, our politicians need to take action and actually decide when we're going, when we expect to become part of it. Simultaneously, we are developing a national qualifications framework, which is like the prerequisite for really a lot of the things that we need to implement from both Bologna, but also from like other European standards. But as said, we just had our second external university review, and it was conducted by international experts from Norway, Denmark, Scotland, San Marino, and Andorra, also including a student who was a former student of the university here, but who now is studying abroad in Copenhagen. The review is conducted in 3 different levels, and with it, there follow some recommendations on how we can become part of the European higher education area, which is very helpful when we're going to develop like a roadmap to actually achieve that goal. And to no surprise, one of the recommendations is to establish a national qualifications framework. So in making the qualifications framework, we're making, it's both compatible with EQF, but also the QF EHEA, like the one from EU and the one from Bologna. And it's built on our current system as it is and not as we would like it to be. And historically, we've had a long tradition in making, like, structuring our educational programs with a basis in neighboring countries, taking really high inspiration from like Nordic practices, and therefore we have also gotten a system which is very comparable to the Nordic educational systems. That has been very helpful in the development of the framework, and where we are right now, we can see that we have a framework which is partly based on the Danish model, partly Faroese, but in its structure is also inspired by Norway, for example. And here is like a diagram where you can see like the blue part is like the educational level. The yellow one is the different programs and types of programs. I think you would say that this is quite recognizable when it comes to your system, I would suppose. And the green one is like supportive systems that we have supporting lifelong learning, and well, it's also relevant when it comes to guidance, of course. While everything in the yellow might be evident to, or might be something that most people have some kind of insight to, the green one is probably not that familiar with people. So every time we make like a new system which supports learning in one way or another, we will add that to the green field. But know that this is not the final product. This is just our current edition. But with this qualifications framework, we will have a clear system with high transparency, which is comparable with the rest of Europe. It will include diagrams with detailed explanations, which is demanded, but we will also additionally follow the Nordic manual. If you know, I don't know if you know that, but Nordic.org, there you can see like brief explanations of the different educational systems that we have in the Nordic and Baltic countries. We will add that manual as well, and hopefully that can be used at some point within that network. And with the framework, of course, it will be easier to make some bridge building between the different programs, and also increase mobility in that way, both internally within our old system, but also with the recognition of our system. It will also be easier to use diplomas from the Faroes in neighboring countries, and likewise when we take people from the outside in. And this is also, well, it makes Erasmus Plus programs like that, makes it easier to follow when you have this framework in place. So the road ahead is that we will make a roadmap to become part of Bologna. We will implement the National Qualifications Framework, and we hope to have that ready by summer 2023. And the part on legislation will be probably before December, I think. We will continue the discussions with the EU about Erasmus Plus, and also get a system that is more supportive when it comes to lifelong learning and guidance. That's about it, I think. So, tack för det. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask. You can also send me an email. You have my contact information there. Tack.
Thank you, Maiken and Terji, for your presentations. This was sort of a combination of presentation where the system feedback was echoing, towards the guidance, because you cannot guide if there's not a system to guide through. So that was an interesting aspect on that, and that's important for us to take notice of. I can see that there's one question in the chat, and it comes from Jon. I think this is to Ingjerd. It says, how would a limit of 1.5 hour guidance go hand in hand with the idea of lifelong guidance? And Jon, you can follow up on this. We are not so many, so I think that's okay if you want to clarify.
Yes, I think it's quite, you cannot say that if you only have one. I just thank you for your presentations. They were very inspiring and good nice to hear from me. And when I think of lifelong guidance, when you have a limit, as Ingjerd mentioned, in the Norwegian system, and I suppose that you need to have some kind of limits in what you have. Otherwise, the cost would be much more than it otherwise could be. But is there how long time do you need actually for guidance for the refugees, or are these limitations only meant to the refugees or everybody?
Yeah, a good question, and I didn't have time to kind of explain more, so it's not so strange that you're asking. But what I was talking about was the integration law. We have a law about integration in Norway, and in that law, the refugees are entitled to 1.5 hours with career guidance with an interpreter, a translator. And of course, this is expensive, and this is part of a process where they have different things they are entitled to before they start on schooling and so on, to be more integrated and going into work. But the career guidance service, the career centers for adults, they are open to everybody. So when you have learned Norwegian, you can go there as much as you want. But they don't have a regular offer which includes interpreters, because that's of course expensive to have interpreters in all kinds of languages, from different parts of the world. So but I still think that the limit in the law is too narrow. And but it's of course the capacity for the career centers who also have this task is limited, and if they give the refugees much more than they are entitled to in the law, they don't have any capacity left to give career guidance to other adults, regular Norwegians. So there's some ethical dilemmas there in the system that the career counsellor cannot solve man to man, so to speak, but has to deal with and has to also be able to communicate towards the political leadership in the country.
Okay, I think that instead of the chat, please just raise your hand and ask directly. Any questions now? Any comments or thoughts about what has been presented? Please feel free. Ingjerd, I would like to ask a little bit more about the quality laboratory. It is based on the user feedback. Can you explain a bit how that will work, how you foresee that it will work towards further developments?
Yeah, we are in very early in the development process, but we have developed both the quality framework and the tools, the 4 tools for the different areas in the quality framework, in close collaboration with the field, with the career counselors and teachers, and also leaders and owners and so on. And we have a lot of dialogue with the field, and what we hear is that this is very good, this is very helpful, and it's motivating, to have this national quality framework, and there's a lot here to be done, and there's a lot of things we can use it for, but it's kind of massive. And we need to, where to start, and how to use it in our workplace, how to share it, how to make a seminar out of one of the areas. So we're trying to make that kind of, to answer some of those needs. But of course, it's always expensive to do digital development. So we don't have enormous amount of money to make a lot of tools and resources. So we're going to build this. We're going to continue after 2023 too, but we really want to make the threshold lower to get into, and also maybe to be able to customize a bit more to the different roles in the field, something for leaders, something for practitioners, and also for the different sectors. And one of the tools in the quality framework, this quality assurance tool, is actually already adapted to 3 sectors in addition to the cross-sectoral version of it. So that in this case, the schools, for instance, have the tool in their own kind of language and adapted to their context, so that it's easier for them to start using it together with the headmaster and to kind of develop the quality in the school. So we want to do kind of more of that, and we also see that we get a lot of questions to come out to the different parts of the country to hold a workshop about the quality framework or about quality development or on a conference and so on. And we try to do as much as we can, but we are a limited number of people. So the quality laboratory is also an answer to make people more, to give more self-help, so they can actually have a workshop themselves without us, because there are resources there and small films and so on that they can use to design a workshop. So, but I'm very thrilled to see how this evolves too, because I'm not making it, but the idea is good, and we're designing the process now. And we're going to use practitioners from the field. We're not sitting in the directorate to make these resources. We are using the people who really know the stuff.
Just to follow up on that, is there specific funding for that work then? Since I don't see any hands up, but please raise your hand if you have questions.
We have a basic funding from the ministry to work on these issues, yeah, and then we get a kind of a lump of money, and then we decide a little bit how we use it, as long as we work, for instance, on quality development of the career services. So this is a priority that we have made, actually.
Thank you. And Jan, you have raised your hand, please.
Yeah, just a small question, but we can use a lot of time to discuss it. But in connection to the quality of guidance you need to evaluate, and it will be a need of statistics or data to use in that evaluation. Do we have some kind of a structured data collecting or system, or what can we do? So that's a very, very big question, but maybe you can somebody answer, and maybe Ingjerd in connection to your laboratory.
I can just say briefly that I totally agree with you, and that we have some statistics in place in Norway, but not for the whole system. We're working on it, and it's going to be more years before we can do that, because it has to do with how we're organized too. We cannot instruct all parts of the career guidance system to start gather statistics. So we have to have a lot of systems in place, and yeah.
Yes, any more questions from participants? I have one for Maiken and Terji. I was thinking, because of the islands and the distance, and you were talking about a lot of that the services needed to be online. Can you elaborate a bit on that? How you do that? What tools you use, and is how that goes? Is it of the same quality? Do the people like it? Are they fine with it? Or what is your experience on the online guidance?
We provide online guidance both as information, where people sign up for instruction where they can ask questions. But for counseling one-on-one, it's typically a Teams meeting, and people up to the age of 60 around are comfortable with it. But people older than that will call in and say, "I will be in Torshavn in this week. Can I come talk to you then?" The Faroes is generally very well connected digitally, but not all people are comfortable with speaking about personal matters online. So the technology is there, and we are willing to use it. We'll meet people where they want to meet us, but not everybody is comfortable with using the digital tools. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. There's one more I'd just like to add a bit. We also have the flexibility, if there are people who The Faroe Islands are, for better and worse, a small, very close-knitted country where we know each other very well. And our placement now has led to some people wanting to meet us outside in another setting, because they do not want to meet someone or somebody, or they want to meet kind of anonymously, especially if they're going for a career change, depending on what they're working with now, because they do not want other people to see that they are seeking career counselling. So we are flexible and we'll meet them outside, but we'll also meet up. I, for instance, live up north, so some days I schedule meetings where I live or on the way to work, to spare people from driving all the way to Tórshavn. So yeah, we try to be quite adaptive and flexible. We have also had career guidance or counselling with people who have moved to the Faroes but are abroad for some reason. And we have had teams meeting with Ghana or Faroes youth studying abroad in various places. So we're not tech wizard, but we are quite comfortable with it. It's just some of the users are not comfortable with it. That was my point.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And we're getting close to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much to all the presenters for sharing your experiences. And this is all for inspiration for others. And while we were formalizing the text for this workshop, we were very much aware that we're talking about quality developments and quality at work. So this is not a fixed thing. It's in constant development. So this session has been recorded and will be available on the NVL website, but maybe just temporary, because this is the state of the art as is it now, and it will change. I want to mention that next fall we will follow up on this webinar and have 2 other countries, regions, tell about their developments. And finally, I would like to encourage you to go into nvl.org, the website, to see other networks and reports and material from NVL, the Nordic Cooperation. But thank you so much for this time, and have a good day. See you later.